Hello and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm the therapist, Tess Brigham.
And I'm Brooke Brigham. I'm the attorney.
And today we are going to cover The White Lotus and the entire series because it just wrapped up this past Sunday. Season 3. So if you've not watched the show and you don't want spoilers, please pause this show, go watch White Lotus and come back because we are going to be giving spoilers.
We're going to mention it all.
Yes. So
Stephanie would say.
So let's start with, we're going to go through all the characters and what happened and such, but let's talk about like high level. What did you think? How did you feel about the ending? The people that ended up, because it's always a mystery. Someone's going to die. So it's always a little bit of this guessing game of who's going to die. So how did you feel?
Well, overall, I really liked the season. I thought it had a lot going on, a lot of different themes and ideas and a lot going on. I thought the characters were interesting. And I guess it didn't occur to me until later, like maybe just a couple episodes ago, that multiple people were going to die because there were several gunshots. And I didn't really remember that from the first episode. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was, people talked about it being sort of like a Greek tragedy. And Mike White said that it was meant to be a Greek tragedy, someone killing the thing that they love while trying to get revenge. When I talk about what Mike White said, this actually comes from the companion podcast, the HBO companion podcast to The White Lotus. That's very interesting. And so it was very Shakespearean. And and there were a lot of people who really changed. Some people did not. Some people, but I also heard someone talking about, the hero's journey as the concept of how, you leave home, you encounter adversity, you overcome it, and you return home as a changed person. And for some people that happened, and some people it didn't. I think Saxton came home. I think he kind of did a little hero's journey. I think he was
little bit. Yeah. Well, poverty is really going to push him to a new level.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting experience for him. But I think he was very affected by the Chelsea Rick story. You could see it when they reunited on the beach, and he softened. In the last few episodes, he really softened, and I think a lot of these characters had a lot of impact on each other. Their interactions with each other. They left changed people. I think the 3 women left changed people to some degree, but I really liked it. There was so much going on and you just didn't know, okay, where is this going? And it all came together and, there's still some unanswered questions, but I loved it.
I overall liked it. I did not feel like the hour and a half season finale was a lot. And we learned from Mike White in the companion podcast that they actually cut some storylines, and we'll talk about that later. They cut a lot of storylines simply because they didn't have time for it all. And I do wonder if the other seasons were all 6 episodes. This one was 8 episodes plus this longer final episode. And I do wonder what it would have been if it was just 6 episodes.
Are you sure the other ones were just 6 episodes?
I'm pretty sure. I can look it up if you...
Because 6 episodes is not a lot. Maybe the first season was 6 episodes. But I feel like the second one was a bit longer. Are you looking it up?
Yeah. Episodes. Hold on. Googling things. Sorry. People just love listening to us. 6 episodes was the first season.
Okay.
So you'd have to look up season 2.
Okay. I don't know. But yeah, I guess it was longer.
Okay. Sorry. Season 2 was 7 episodes.
Okay. So this is 8
So
episodes.
this was the longest, and this had a very long finale. And you know, one of the it was funny because Steve and I were watching it, but he had started it first, so he finished it first. And I asked him, when I was done, what did you think? And he had this very visceral reaction, like he didn't like it. He's like, I don't like that ending. I don't like how all that turned out. I think that I wish there was a little bit more development of the Rick character, especially since he's the one dying. Like, yes, we don't necessarily need to know how he and is it Chelsea? How the two of them met per se, but I wanted to know a little bit more about him, like who he was, and I think that would have been, he was a bit of a mystery, and these other characters that were on the show, they were written much more of like, you kind of got who that person is. Like I got who Victoria Ratliff was, or Timothy. Like I got who those people were, and I had no idea who Rick was at all. And that's the thing. It's like, I just would have liked to know, like, is his work legal or illegal? Like, how does he make money? And does he have tons of money or not? Like, just, I wanted to know a little bit more. And so since he and, he and Chelsea are the ones that died, there's a little bit of like, yeah, I would like more of that story.
Yeah, we don't know anything about Chelsea at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we know a few facts about Rick, but...
Yeah. And also the same thing with the Timothy Ratliff character. I just felt like, oh God, that's a lot. Like, we just kind of watched him take lorazepam for 5 or 6 episodes. Do you know what I mean? It felt like, God, if this had been tightened up, I think it would have been much more impactful. That's just me.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I guess maybe, but see, his character, I feel like he wasn't, even though he was a main character, he kind of wasn't a main character. He was the dad, and we know that, he did this bad thing and now his family's poor and he's probably going to go to prison. But the focus of the whole show was really his children and the mother, and just the, that old Southern, are they decent people? Yeah, it was sort of like he was just playing this role of the dad.
Yeah.
He's the stereotypical finance dad who makes it possible for all these people to be spoiled, privileged brats. And, he didn't change. I mean, and...
I don't know. I felt like there was some change. I mean, listen, I think the fact that he decided to finally face his greatest fear, yeah. I mean, I don't know. But I just think,
how did he face his greatest fear?
Well, basically, he gave him back the phones. He did not. He's going to have to face this. I mean, that was the whole thing. He wanted to annihilate his whole family simply because he did not. First, it was about killing himself because he didn't want to face them, and then he felt guilty about the fact that oh no, they're not going to make it. So now I have to. I have to kill them too.
I kind of think maybe he did kill himself, like when they were on the boat leaving. And they had their phones back.
Yeah.
And Saxon was looking at his phone, and he had this look on his face, like he just saw the news. And he kind of looks up and he looks over at Piper, and the whole time Tim is just kind of by the side of the boat, and he wouldn't even look them in the eye. And he was saying, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this as a family. And they keep panning down to the ocean below, and water and the ocean is a huge theme in this. And he's just staring at the ocean. He's not even looking. I think he may have jumped overboard. I mean, we just didn't see it. It just cut off.
I don't know. I maybe that might have been it. I mean, maybe. True.
Because every time there is a death or a near death or anything, we get the water. You get Lachlan, like he's drowning in the water, and Victoria has that dream about their home is
the
on
tsunami.
The beach, and all the tsunami stuff, and their home is on the beach, and she starts walking out into the surf, and of course Rick and Chelsea get shot. They fall into the water. and the whole Buddha thing about how he says we're all droplets and you return to the sea when you die.
And that's where my mind went when I was thinking about, I thought Timothy Ratliff was kind of looking at the droplets of water, sort of like, okay, I'm still here. I've got to face,
go back.
Or I'm going to go back. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll never know. But I don't really think that he was, even though he spared his family, I don't think that he was in a headspace to face it himself, face the consequences to him, and then have to witness the consequences to his family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but overall, I mean, I think it's a very good show. It's very well written. And these are just like little nitpicky things that I would go through. But I think overall it was good. And I like stuff like this because it is very much these parallels to what I see as a therapist of what the problems are and things that I struggle with, right? Which is, I think the Rick and Chelsea thing was a very direct example of, we have choices in life about what we have choices, and we can choose to stay victims and stay in these places where you feel like, the world's against me, or you can not. You can see how it can help you. And even if, I think the Rick character was a great example of that, even someone who loves you and adores you, something that Saxton would like. Right. Saxton will like something that most people would long for is someone to love them on this kind of level and devotion. But he can't even love it or appreciate it at all.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, and her thing about, I'll just keep following you into the next life, this kind of romantic fatalism.
The Romeo and Juliet. Yeah,
exactly. And and it's like, God, Chelsea, this man is just bringing you down. He literally killed you.
Several times.
And it was really hard. You're right. Cause the character development of Rick, you can't find any redeeming qualities in him. It's like we had a few minutes of when he came back from Bangkok and, she runs to him on the beach and the first time you even see him smile.
Yeah.
And he's happy and he's smiling and, they're going to be together forever. I don't know why they didn't get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. Cause that feels like that's a weird story element, which is because when I saw him the next day at the place, I'm like, why? Hello? Right. Why are you having breakfast at the buffet? Like, you knew enough to run out of his house.
Bangkok. He left Bangkok. Right. He told his friend, he's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. But I mean, and so you go, I mean, obviously you have to go get Chelsea again, but you pack up your stuff and you go.
Yeah.
So that was so weird. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
You're staying at this guy's hotel. He owns a hotel.
Yeah.
And his wife knows, what you did. He assaulted him and yeah, I mean, that didn't make sense.
Yes. Yes, at all.
So,
and okay, well, let's talk about the themes and the characters because this, and Mike White says this as well, which is, but I did write this down before I heard the Mike White interview, that this was all about identity, right? Like people, that how we get really, really caught up in this identity that we create for ourselves, that this viewpoint of, well, but I'm this person. And it's amazing to me how, and I've been there too, where you get locked into some sort of viewpoint of yourself from childhood or for whatever. And then you're an adult and you're like, but I decided that when I was 12, I'm that kind of person, or this is my personality, or these
and
are
the people around you, and the people around you perpetuate it.
Yes, yes.
They keep reminding you what you did when you were 12 and treating you like you're still that person or something. Yeah,
yeah, and that part's really hard, and it's one of the reasons why, right? If you look at friendships and these were about, long friendships. I mean, it was Rick and Chelsea that really had the shortest relationship of anyone there. Everybody else, I mean, even Mook and Gaitak, like they were childhood friends. Like everybody had these long relationships with each other. And what that meant was that they're, for better or for worse, they've seen you through all of these things. They've seen you through all of these identities and various things. They've seen you try these things on. And it is interesting because one of the things that always has really bugged me my entire life is how much I felt like growing up. I think it was especially our father and our father's side of the family loved to bring up like, oh, when you were 13, you were like this. Or when you were this age, you were like this. Like, I don't really do that to Max. I don't like, oh, but when you were 12, you were like this. Cause I always felt, it felt almost embarrassing to me. Like I can't evolve.
Right.
And I'm going to be made fun of every time I try to evolve.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I've had the same things said to me, and it's very disrespectful. And, yeah. And isn't that like one of the Buddhist tenets about that identity is the cause of suffering? If you're too, wrapped up in what is your identity? Yeah.
And that's what people stay in marriages too long, in relationships too long because of identity. People stay at jobs too long, that's, we get locked into that. And because it becomes a part of us, we don't even realize it's happening. But people should be, people grow, and we should honor it. And I think that's one of the things. It's hard when someone changes. It's hard when someone close to you changes. Yeah. But if you want to keep that relationship, you've got to change. You've got to like roll with it. So.
Yeah. Well, and that was a theme with the three friends too. Yeah. Because you've known each other for so long, you see the young person, and Lori got, I think, picked on the most about. The other two would say, "Oh, well, she's always been like that," or how she is, or yeah, there was a lot of that. Like,
yes,
how she is.
All right. So should we take character by character, or which character? Like,
yeah. Well, why don't we start with? You want to start with the three friends?
Yeah. This is another criticism that I have. Sorry, which is the speech that Lori gave, and Carrie Coon is such an amazing actress. She's so good, and it's an amazing monologue. But you kind of don't really know where it's coming from. And that was one of my issues. Was like, we don't see her, like, she has this crazy night. She doesn't want to go to breakfast. She's kind of hiding out in her room all day, avoiding the friends. And then she shows up to dinner and gives this big speech. And you're kind of like...
The way I saw it was basically the whole time, Kate and Jacqueline, they weren't really being very real. They were being very fake. And they were shit talking Lori a lot. And, they were talking about how, oh, you're so great. Oh, no, you're so great. And like Lori, she was calling them out on their BS. I thought that speech was very honest, because it's the last night and they're talking about, oh, wasn't this so wonderful? And you're great. No, you're great. And she called them out, and she's like, I've been sad all week, quite frankly. And, she says, as you get older, you have to justify your life and your choices.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were doing. They were talking about her divorce and her child who's difficult, and, her marriage or failed marriage, whatever. And meanwhile, Jacqueline, is cheating on her husband. She thinks he's cheating on her, probably.
Yeah.
And Kate, God knows what's going on with her. She's hiding behind this mask of,
oh yeah, she's religion. The one that's hiding the most. Yeah,
she's hiding the most. And and she says time gives life meaning. It's not just about, you don't get the meaning of life. It's not like, oh, I'm in this religion and that's my, that's everything. Well, that anyone can go and join a church or a religion. That doesn't make you anything. It's living the life and how you live your life. I mean, I thought that was just kind of her purpose, was to just call these women out.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of wanted to see a little bit of character development of like what got you to saying that, because when she first started talking, I didn't think she was going to say that. I thought she was going to go into or start to talk about the night before. But it was interesting because the parallels with, this story of the Ratliffs, I mean, this is like mass suicide, drinking the Kool-Aid. And then we've got Rick and Chelsea that are having this Shakespearean tragedy. And then the three of them are like, okay, we had dinner. And then, now we're fine. And I heard Mike White talk about this, that he said that he because there were these two heavy stories, that he wanted to add something light, and he wasn't trying to criticize or make comments about female friendships, but that he saw these three women as like three parts of self, three parts of, and I do think that in many ways, right, that what was interesting about the three women is, and this happens a lot, which is where people, again, it comes back to identity of like what we like to classify people. We want to put people in categories. So Jacqueline's the beautiful actress, but she can also be smart and be funny. I mean, that's the other thing. I think that we saw Carrie Coon, Lori, be tough, but we also saw her be, fun and vulnerable and some of these other things. And so I maybe this is what Mike White was trying to show, was just like, we tend to segment people, and we like to put them in categories of like, this is who you are. This is how you. And I also think in relationships, anytime you have, especially threes or more, there's a flow. There's a, how the three of you interact with each other. Everyone has their role in that. And just like everyone has their role in a family.
Yeah. Because we still don't really know anything about Kate.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, I feel like she's the one that probably has the hardest time. Because all I'm thinking is, oh God, are you in some kind of trad wife? Like, is this guy Dave? Like, do you have control over your finances? I worry. I'm like, oh, is she as happy as she claims to be?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like Jacqueline and Kate are basically lying about their lives. And I feel like Lori's actually pretty honest about hers. I don't know. But then, and then, so they have this, and then they go to take a picture with Saritala, and then this mass shooting occurs.
Yeah.
They're running for their lives, and then they're on the way back on the boat. They're all like laughing and like just like, oh, everything's good with us again.
Yeah, that was very strange. That was very strange. Like that the three of them would just be like, after witnessing that,
I know.
I mean, wouldn't you'd be like, I need an extra week here.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, your nice relaxing vacation.
I know, it ends like this. Like,
yeah,
hello.
You watch someone get shot right in front of you. Like, it's crazy. Really crazy.
Yeah.
So,
well, I liked their storyline, their plot. I thought it was interesting.
I like their storyline, and I really, in the first couple episodes, I mean, I thought it was just so fascinating. Like in each episode, like there was a new dynamic of two women talking behind back of the third, which is such a a lot of the stuff that you see in these women and their relationship really is like a big part of female friendships, which is, threes are hard. There's always one person that's left out. There's always one person that's maybe not as close as the other two. And that's never a fun dynamic. And you are always talking about the third when they're not there. And, you can get a little bit of that fake concern from people of like, well, I'm just asking, oh, bless her heart, because I'm so concerned, but really you're just wanting to gossip about them. And I thought he did a good job of sort of like, this is how these dynamics are. at times, and also that sort of that need to constantly validate experiences of like, oh, this is so great, and
Right.
I'm so appreciative of this moment. And it's like those are nice things, but
Yeah. Well, they did have the most fun, I think, of
yeah,
they
definitely.
went out, they went out dancing, they went out, I don't know. I mean, considering the heaviness, the scene where, they're running through the streets and the kids are squirting the
Yes,
water
yes,
guns
that
at
was
them.
weird. Yeah,
But
yeah,
but it was hilarious because it's like, how did this happen? How did we
yeah,
get here? But it was some of the only fun anyone seemed to be having.
yes. All right, so you want to tackle the family?
Sure.
Okay.
Well,
So no,
huh?
what? We're going to talk about the family?
Yeah.
Okay. So Timothy, I mean, I think that he definitely, like, his whole thing with identity, um, and just it's interesting because this one was the most kind of clear cut about identity of how you see yourself isn't necessarily what is true, right? Like you're these pillars of the community, you're good people, you're decent people, but actually no, you're committing fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, of all of the sort of characters, I feel like is most closely aligned with a bit of what we see today in the world of people just, you know, claiming one thing about themselves and then something else coming
I
out.
think that's a lot of people, with in all income levels.
Mm.
I see that all the time. I know people who really put on a good front, try to make it seem like their family is everything's fine. And I know it's not. I know
Mm.
information that it's not just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ooh, who are
yeah,
these people? I want to know now because I don't know who the I'm trying to think
well,
of the people that I know who are
I'll tell
the
you
people.
offline, but
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, it's just, I know people who, yeah, I know that the way that they're presenting is not what's really happening. And I think that's a lot. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors.
No.
I mean, look at our whole society is based on, Instagram, showing your life in the best possible light
Mm-hmm.
and kind of borderline lying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a production, and I don't know. I oftentimes, I mean, can't you see through that with people in real life?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of people that I know. I mean, I certainly have clients. Like I have some clients that I know, like I have a client who's in a marriage that's awful and miserable, but I do know that they have lots of money. They have, cute kids. They have
Mm-hmm.
everything that looks perfect. And yeah, and I know that that's one of the things that bothers them is this partner is the fact that the other partner loves to take pictures and slap on
Mm-hmm.
outfits it
Post
becomes a
it. Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, they're not very loving. They're not being kind. None of that. So I see that with my clients. I'm just trying to think of like people that in my own world. But yeah, I think I I think that it's gotten worse with social media. I think that we've always had this idea of putting a smile on our faces and pretending like everything's okay. Like that's always sort of been the way of doing things. But I think now the pressure to have a big, important life is huge.
I think it always has been. I think it's just now we have this new medium to use. I mean, the Ratlifts are, there's people like them in every community and every social strata, everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're just they're just fake and pretentious. And you don't have to have a lot of money to be fake and pretentious. Honestly, they do happen to have or they had a lot of money.
Not anymore.
But, even if you don't have money, you can certainly raise a Saxton or, a Piper, which is just hilarious. It was so hilarious. I knew that when Victoria said, okay, go stay one night in that monastery.
Yeah.
I knew she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And that she was going to come back and she was going to be like, no, I can't do this. I mean, she's like, the food is not even organic. And Victoria is just so pleased with herself.
Yes.
That this worked,
Yes.
and that Piper is, saw the light. So I mean, I think that they could be so many different people. And like I said, this transcends money or, I mean, there's a lot of people like this.
What's also interesting about the family is, right, the parents, or especially Victoria, her biggest concern is about Piper leaving the family and becoming a Buddhist.
Mm-hmm.
While you're sort of like, there have been much bigger issues happening here. Like, there are much bigger issues. And it also tells you a lot about their marriage and about this relationship, that he doesn't turn to her, Victoria, and tell her what's going on, that he hides it from everybody. And so, yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of that with, obviously Saxon drank the Kool-Aid very early on and just was like, oh, I am, and I've met a lot of those Saxons over the years where it's that kind of white male privilege to the nth degree. And I can say or do anything. And, oh, you shouldn't be mad. You're too sensitive. That kind of real alpha male attitude. But I think that with Chelsea, I think that that's the first time maybe someone really ever called him.
Oh yeah.
She
was his mirror.
Yeah.
She picked him apart, and he kept trying. He kept coming back, kept trying to get with her. And every single time she just broke it down for him and told him, this is what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And she actually did. She did it. She broke him.
Yes, she did. He started reading.
Self-help books.
I have to say that one line where he says, I did go to Duke. Like, it was like, yeah, he is smart. He obviously had to do well in school.
Yeah, no, she was his total mirror. And I think it was the most changed person, honestly. Yeah. And, and this whole, I feel like Piper's character was a kind of a commentary on this fake,
wellness, Buddhism,
fake spirituality. Like, yeah, I mean, the minute she actually had to, like, not, walk the walk and talk the talk, she just was like, nope, not going to do it. But one thing I haven't really seen much commentary on this, and I don't understand the incest story and why it's in there and what it meant or what it brought, other than showing that Lachlan is a people pleaser.
Yeah, that I feel like the whole incest piece was sort of explained away, which is it wasn't incest. I'm just a people pleaser. And so Mike White was talking about this, like Lachlan's kind of in the middle. And there's Saxon on one side saying to be a man, it means you take control and you are alpha and you go after it and who cares whatever happens and, all of that. And then you've got Piper, who's on this other side, who is, concerned about, like, I think with Piper, I think a lot of it is much more around, I don't know if she feels that connected to Buddhism. I think she's just kind of she's a typical 22-year-old who's kind of lost.
Searching for something.
But Lachlan is sort of in this middle kind of like, am I supposed to be kind of like what Piper's telling me to be? Like this Buddhist and this and that, or should I be this carnal person? And I have to say that this wasn't brought up at all, but it is interesting because, what Lachlan did, he did not have consent. He did not have consent. And so, and I do think that Saxon is someone, in the first early episodes was just Mr. Alpha, like, I take what I want.
Yeah, and he's telling him, you got to get laid. He's even telling Piper she needs to get laid.
Yeah. But the thing is that you then see like him have this experience where it's like, that's something
violated.
You were violated without your consent. And guess what, Saxon? Are you doing that? Have you been doing that? Or do you do that? Or you know what I mean? So there's a part of me that really, like, that hasn't been brought up a lot in a lot of the things that I've read, just about the fact that, again, I don't know Saxon, the character. Like, I don't know what happened before, but what happened to him was he did not consent to that. That was not okay at all. And
yeah, that was very unresolved. That was a real loose end.
Yeah. And the fact that I'm a people pleaser, that's his big reason.
That explains the whole incident. And it was because it was so controversial and people were talking about it, and they were giving the clues from the beginning about, well, what bedroom are you going to sleep in? And you have grown up genitals. And from episode 1, everyone's like, oh, there's incest vibes here.
Yeah. Well,
and then it was never, I mean, I don't understand. What was the point of it?
Well, and also don't forget, in the first episode, we see Lachlan kind of like looking at Saxon, looking at him naked, being turned on by his butt, like being intrigued by him. So I assumed that Lachlan was gay. That was my assumption, that Lachlan was gay and was trying to kind of sort out his feelings, nothing to do with his brother. But that he was also trying to kind of push his brother off of like, you got to hit on girls. And I think I always felt like he was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. So it was set up from the beginning that there was something there. And then if the explanation is, well, but you said that you just have to get off and you seem to be left out and I'm a people pleaser. I just felt like that was very
crazy. Odd. It was very odd, very unsatisfying, Yeah, you could have come out totally differently. I don't think they needed that. That seemed kind of gratuitous.
But I do think that it did. I think it said a lot more about Saxton and sort of this karma, right? If this is Buddhism and karma and what goes around comes around, there is a bit of like, well, Saxon, those are your words. Those were your words, that you take things that
you take
about getting off.
Go after it.
You go after it, and someone did that.
Right.
And it violated you. And do you see it different now?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
That part I thought, but people weren't really talking about it. And it wasn't really addressed in the show at all.
Psych Legal Pop will be right back after these messages. So there was one of the things that Mike White revealed in the podcast was that there was a storyline that they had to cut out for time, which I'm very upset about this, where Piper decides, after going to the monastery, that she does need to lose her virginity. Saxon's right. And she ends up losing her virginity to Zion.
Yeah.
Belinda's son. And it's like, I want to see that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes. And then they show, people didn't really understand it at the time, but knowing that, people go back and they pull the clip where she's walking into the villa on the last morning. This is the night before they leave. And she walks into the villa and, the whole time she has these little kind of prairie girl dresses on with her hair pulled back, and she's got her hair flowing and it's kind of messy, and she's wearing this kind of sexy dress, and she's got a little swag in her walk. And she's like looking fresh faced, and, and it's like, oh, okay. That was after she got laid.
Well, Zion's cute. He's cutie McCuterson. So
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What else do we say about the Ratliffs?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because Victoria really didn't have a lot to do, but she's the most memeable person. Like the Piper, like people, that's everywhere, and people are doing her accent, and I really do. I liked this character because she felt very familiar, but also a little different. She was a little different than other Southern belles that we've met and seen. And I think that was what made it really brilliant was that Parker Posey really kind of dug in and found like a version of somebody that we don't normally see, but we can see how they exist.
Yeah, because Victoria's very smart. She
Yeah.
might be out to lunch on her lorazepam and, you know, whatever. But she knew what she was doing with Piper.
Oh, yeah.
And
which is very smart. It was a good parenting thing.
Yeah.
I think it was and exactly what you should do with your kid, which is like, well, why don't you try it before you commit to a year?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I think Victoria probably knows more. I think she knows about what's happening. I don't think she's going to be shocked, you know, when she gets home. And, I think she's a lot more savvy, but, you know, she's just always so out of it. But then she'll say these really profound things, you know, like I loved it when she's out of lorazepam and she's like, now I'm just going to have to drink myself to sleep. It's so many funny lines, and she was just so fun to watch.
Yeah, she was.
Great
and I
character.
also think that a lot of times when we see these Southern belles, you know, we see blonde hair and big hair and maybe someone wearing a lot of makeup and big outfits. And I think that I really liked how subtle. It was very subtle. Like, no, they dressed very much like Southern, like people dress down in that area. And you know, just like, you know, that kind of the wealth where you don't need to flaunt it, but it's there, you know, that you could feel. And I thought they did a really good job of that. You know, obviously Timothy was on his own parallel journey, but I just found some of his scenes to be like a little like, okay, got it. You know, you're stressed out. You don't want to talk about it. You're trying to do this. You're trying to do that. Like,
well, yeah, it was very dark. You know, he's fantasizing about killing himself, killing his family, tried to kill his family, and then changed his mind.
Almost killed his son.
Yeah. Oh, and the blender thing. Everyone's incensed. Like, who just leaves, you know, stuff in the blender? Someone comes along and then just adds some water.
Well, yeah. And why wouldn't you clean it out?
Well, I saw a TikTok where this guy was saying, people are asking why he didn't clean it out. He's like, here's something you don't understand about rich people. They don't clean. They're not used to cleaning their own stuff and dishes or whatever. But yeah, it was, you know, that is a kind of a stretch to believe that he wouldn't even clean it out. But
because it has a very strong smell. And obviously the fruit has a strong smell. Now they've set it up, right? That the taste of the protein shake is terrible.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't know the difference.
So he doesn't know the difference. But I still feel like, God, you wouldn't have even rinsed that out a little bit and dumped that out. I can believe that Timothy, because he was so out of it and he was just almost annihilated his whole family. I can believe that you would put that there. But at the same time, I mean, I was happy that he survived.
Yeah.
And I do think that something like that needed to happen for Timothy because, you know, Timothy obviously cares about his kids. And he also, like Piper, was searching for something, like trying to figure out, what am I going to do? You know, do I stay in Thailand? Do I never leave? Do I become one of these guys? Like, what do I do? And I mean, you know, I think it was seeing like, my son almost died that gave him the courage to finally own up to some stuff.
Face the music. Yeah.
Because that is, in the end, that is what is most important. I mean, in the end, and I know this is an old cliche, but it's true. You know, like no one from your job is going to be at your funeral, you know, unless you're really close friends. Like no one's going to be talking about your performance reviews. Like your life is going to come down to your family and the relationships that you build.
Yeah.
And it kind of doesn't matter how much money you have. All right.
Let's move on. Let's move on to Rick and Chelsea. We kind of I'm not sure what more we can say about them, but
yeah, I wish there was more development of Rick. And what was I going to say? Oh, you know, I just found his character very frustrating because he was such a victim. Do you know what I mean? It was a little bit like, okay, so a guy died, you know, your father was killed before you were born and your life sucks. So
But we don't even know did his life suck, or like because we don't know. He doesn't tell us like, well, here's what my childhood was like. I guess his mom was a drug addict. Well, did she die young? What did he have to go into foster care? What happened to you? I mean, yeah, they needed. Without that, we just look at him and go, oh God, yeah, you're just this whiny asshole.
Yeah.
Like, if you want us to like him, you got to tell us what has he been through? Why is he so angry? Why does he want to travel to Thailand to kill this man? And also, why did he decide not to? That was never explained.
The first time around.
The first time, yeah, when he went to Bangkok, why did you decide not to kill him? And then the fact that he was so set off by, when he sees him at the hotel at the breakfast buffet, and he says, your mother was a whore and your father was nobody worth knowing or something. That just set him off. And then the funniest thing is he runs to go find that woman, Amrita,
thank you. I want to talk about this for a second. Okay.
If she had just taken 5 minutes to talk to Rick, maybe none of this would have happened.
Now, I just want to say, when you work with people, there is no right or wrong, right? Like, this is one of the hardest parts about this job is you kind of just have to go with your instincts around things and decide. But quite frankly, if this were my client, and I've worked in drug and alcohol treatment centers where clients will you're pulling one client, another one comes up to you. If the roles were reversed, I absolutely would have turned his eye on and been like, can you give me 30 minutes or 20 minutes? Like, let me just find out what's going on.
This guy's obviously in great distress.
And the thing is that you kind of need to assess, are you suicidal? Are you homicidal? Like, what is happening? And quite frankly, that, I'm sorry, like that is what she should have done. And I think other clinicians would agree.
Well, I don't think she's a real clinician. What was her title? She was like I don't know. She was a mindfulness. So, she's not a license to do anything. Okay?
But listen, she's doing heavy duty work. She's doing some heavy duty work with this guy.
Yeah. I don't know what her credentials are, but clearly she didn't do a good job that day.
Yes. So if this was a treatment center, they would have stopped everything and assessed what was going on. Yeah. Especially if I had seen that guy and he was all over the place and all of these other things that were going on.
Yeah, she had talked to him enough before to know that he was in a bad place already. And then he comes up to you and he's really distressed and you're just like, I'm sorry, I can't get off schedule here. I got an appointment.
Yeah, I got to set my boundaries here and you can't just come in and do that. And
the whole, and her Chelsea's whole thing about bad things come in threes, and she kept saying that over and over again. And so, she had the robbery first, she kind of escaped death there, and then the snake bit her, escaped death again. And then this just took her down.
Well, and that's the other thing too. In episode 3, when he releases all the snakes, it was like, okay, there's just no understanding. Okay, so do you feel trapped? Do you see yourself as the snake? I mean, you got the sense that he was identifying with the snakes and seeing how these snakes are trapped. And it was like, okay, so are you a bad guy, but you're being victimized? Like, there just needed to be a little bit more. And I kept waiting for that payoff with him and I love Walton Goggins. I think he's an amazing actor. And I think he's so good. But honestly, I feel like I know Frank better. Right. I mean, the monologue heard around the world.
Yeah.
How psyched was Sam Rockwell to get that monologue? I mean, if I was an actor and I got that, I'd be thrilled.
And Mike White was explaining the origin of that. So, originally, he wanted to shoot this season 3 in Japan because he had been there in the past and he really liked it. And they happened to be in Thailand, like on their way to Japan to scout locations or something. And he got really sick. He got pneumonia and they put him on a nebulizer, and he said he didn't sleep for a couple days. And I think he got kind of delirious and, he started thinking up all these things. But he said that he had this friend that he'd been to Japan with in the past who was obsessed with Asian women.
Mm-hmm.
And that started getting him thinking about, well, why are you obsessed with, and why are any of us attracted to whatever we're attracted to? And where does that come from? And what does that mean? So that's where that evolved from. And then, he just started getting deeper and deeper into, like a lot of, I can't really explain it very well, but that was the origin story of that.
Yeah. And just like, he's talking about how do you take it back? How do you keep like taking a step back? So are you attracted to Asian women or is it attracted to, you and all of that? I mean, and so, but that was a lot of character development that could have gone to Rick.
Could have gone to Rick. Exactly.
And so it's a little bit of like, and then the other part of it too is that you could also blame Rick for Frank's downfall here. I mean, obviously he's an adult and Frank,
he went off the ledge there.
Yeah. I mean, he's an adult and he makes his own choices, but Rick did put him in this real funky situation. And again, and the two of them did not spend any time like, okay, what are her films and what's this movie going to be about? Like, you're not going to prep for this at all?
Yeah. Yeah. And he started drinking in that meeting.
Yeah. Because he was feeling tense.
Saritala. Yeah. And he's pretending to be this producer. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'll have a scotch or whatever. It's like, why now? Like, what? Yeah. What set that off?
Yeah.
That was strange.
Let's talk about Belinda.
Yeah.
Because, Mike White talked about this as well, that there was a lot of criticism in the first season with Belinda of like, oh, she's the sole Black character. And now she's like, has this really sad storyline. And so it was this sort of idea of like, how do we shift the storyline a bit of Belinda's story and also keep Tanya in the mix. And I thought that it was really well done in the sense that, this is a bit of what Mike White was talking about, which is like, you can have really high morals and standards when you don't have any money, but what does it take for us to then, because I mean, you think about yourself in those positions and I think, oh God, could I really pretend like I didn't see this person and ignore this? And then you start to think, well, how much money would it take for me to like not care or put my own wants and desires above everybody else's?
Yeah, I know. If I was in her place, I mean, clearly $5 million is nothing to this guy.
Yeah.
He paid it. And, he tried to get away with only giving her $100,000. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he killed, he had this woman killed. So, I don't know. Like,
well, Tanya did actually, they were trying to kill her maybe, but Tanya did fall on her own. That was her own accident.
But they were trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Like he had set it up.
That's the belief. But yeah.
That was the glitch. But I don't know. I mean.
And then there's this parallel, there's this like symmetry to her like going to Porchai and saying like, yeah, I gotta go. We're not starting our business together.
But she never promised him. I think that's different because she never promised him anything. He just said, I think we should open a spot together. And he was kind of trying to use her. He was trying to use her because she's an American and, she has more money than him and she has more access to whatever. So he was trying to use her. She never made any promises or commitments to him. So I don't think it's the same as what Tanya did to her. Tanya promised her stuff, had her do a business plan, led her on, used her, and then said, oh no, I need to focus my energy elsewhere. So I don't think Belinda did anything wrong to Pornchai.
I don't think she did anything wrong to him, but Mike White does make reference to this of like wanting Belinda to have a happy ending. And also to tie it back to Tanya and also to have this like parallel experience of having to tell him. I'm with you. You know, I mean, and I always thought what was weird about the whole Belinda storyline in the first season was just how disappointed she got with, like, this woman's kind of a kook,
right?
You know,
She's
and she
totally
comes into
kooky.
your place and you're a smart person. And quite frankly, I don't latch myself onto anything until I'm actually doing the thing, you know, until I get the money in my hand or I'm doing the thing. Am I going to tell people?
How
You
did
know?
she even know that Tanya even really had any money? You know, she's there at this luxury resort, but that doesn't mean that she's necessarily rich. I don't know. Someone else could have
But
paid for her or
it
whatever.
just seems odd. Like, it's not like the two of you had been talking for months and months and months and you drew up plans and you were down the road. And then at the last minute, she said, no. It was like, you know, she wanted to invest in you. And so that's the other part of, like, what's going on, you know, because it seemed like Belinda was going through some depression and some other things. Her son Zion, I thought he's a cutie, but his personality wasn't great. Like, I kind of felt he was a little slimy, but
well, he negotiated the $5 million, so.
And he was smart enough, which is something that, hence why I'm not why I didn't go to business school, which is he's very smart. He researched. He absolutely did the research to find out, like, what is this guy's net worth?
Yeah.
You know, what would be a number that that he could be okay with?
Yeah. Well, and they brought him on to de-virginize Piper too.
Yes.
So
we didn't get to see his best work.
We didn't even get to see that. We didn't get to see his bare ass at all.
No, no, not at all.
God, I was very disappointed when I heard that.
Well, yeah, and that one of the other things was that Mike White was talking about that season 3, episode 1 was called Same Spirits, New Forms. And he did say that he sees these as continuations of these conversations. And I think that overall, like, a lot of the themes that he talks about and tackles, I mean, they're sort of age-old themes, but they're very much like why we suffer. We suffer because we think we want something that we can't have, even if we have something right in front of us. We suffer because, we get attached to an identity. We suffer because of the expectations, like all of that, and having money doesn't fix any of it,
No. And that's why I think also the whole travel theme, fits all of these themes, because the premise of travel is you're trying to escape your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because not every time, but almost every time I've gone to another country, I always think, maybe I could live here. You know what I mean? It's like, I always think that. And I don't know why, but it's like, wherever you go, there you are. And it's not going to really necessarily change anything. And you might end up in a worse place.
Yes.
Than where you came from. So, and
I think Hawaii is a great example of that. Like, Hawaii is one of those places where I think, it's great to visit. It's great to travel there. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. But I don't think it's that great to live there.
No,
I really don't. No one that I've known that's lived, I mean, Layla lived in Hawaii for almost a year, but like every person that I knew that lived in Hawaii was not happy at all. And I think that's a good example of, like, right, we get in those vacation modes and then we think, oh, well, this would be paradise all the time.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's not. And there is this other piece about excess, which is, right, you're talking about Frank, which is he just could never be satisfied. Like, how much, if he hadn't stopped doing this, how much farther could he take it? Is it people having sex with him, and then there's an Asian woman watching, and then is there like a whole group?
Yeah, how many things do you need to keep yourself interested? I mean, and then you see him partying, and he's just snorting coke for 2 days. It's like, it's never enough. It's just.
Well, and he said to Rick, he's like, oh man, we haven't even gotten to the ice yet, which I think you're right is meth. Or he's like, we haven't gotten to the speed. We haven't even gotten there. So, and that is that other thing, right? This big giant hole that we feel inside of ourselves that we try to fill up with stuff. And that's the other trappings of money is believing that money is going to fix these things.
Yeah. And money is kind of a religion to some people, going back to the religion, whatever. It definitely was a religion to the Ratliffs. But okay, let's talk about Mook and Guy Talk.
Oh, yeah. And also, hold on, an aside, I heard Guy Talk sing, the actor, in real life, amazing voice.
Oh, really?
Really talented. Anyway.
So is he an actor in Thailand? Like, is he a performer? Or?
I would assume so, but he was singing. I mean, he was amazing. And then, Mook is like the Beyonce of Thailand.
Right.
Apparently.
Right. Well, Mook is savage. That woman is savage.
Oh, God, Mook.
She just from the get-go, she wants a killer.
Yeah, she does.
Literally. Yeah. She just, she told Guy Talk straight up, you need to be a killer. You need to be more aggressive. You need to be like these guys over here. The tough guy, bad guy, security guards. You need to move up. You need to get a better position. At the Muay Thai fight, she's telling him, like, see, you need to be a fighter, a brutal. That was her whole thing. And then at the very end, where he actually kills Rick and gets promoted to be Saritala's bodyguard, all of a sudden Mook is just like,
oh yeah,
all over him. She's like, yes, like there you go, that's my man.
Yeah, and I kind of thought that Guy Talk would have caught on. Do you know what I mean? When he said, oh, when are we going to go out again? And she's like, I don't know, I'm not hungry. I'm not eating or whatever. Like, she's so transparent that you're like, you have to see what's going on here. Right.
Well, yeah. And what is it? Again, no character development. We know nothing about Mook, or why does she want to be with a killer? Why is it so important to her? Because it's not like she just wants a macho man. I think she wants literally someone who's not afraid to be violent and threatening and protect people, I guess. Maybe she feels like she needs to be protected. What happened to you, Mook? We don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it would have been if there was they had the other bodyguards as sort of this juxtaposition of Guy Talk. But it was a little confusing with Mook. Like, okay, you like him and you're going to go on a date with him, but there's something about him you don't really like, and then you're only willing to date him if he moves up. And I mean, it just, the whole thing seemed a little odd.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe some understanding of why that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, their relationship, Guy Talk was a big part of, the whole series, simply with the stuff with the gun and all of that. But yeah, the whole Mook Guy Talk story, love story, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, it could have used a lot more attention. And
yeah. But I do think it was giving comments about like survival, right? The Valentine, the robbers, were these guys from Russia and they can't go back to Russia. Now they're scammers, they're not the most honest people in the world, but, very much what they were saying, which is, I do believe, which is, they escaped their own country. They came here. There's no way for them to make money. So this is how they make money. And just the fact that it is, people do have to do things that are outside the scope of what you would consider okay for survival. And that wasn't really explored so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I also think that the whole thing with Lori and the guy, I think all of that's really interesting too, because everyone always talks about having these affairs and Stella got her groove back and, this idea of this woman meeting someone and having this affair and then of, having this tawdry tryst in a foreign country. And I think what we saw from both what happened with Jacqueline and Valentine and Lori, which is it's there's the fantasy of it and then there's the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reality is because towards the end there, the funniest part was towards the end, Valentine like, they didn't want to talk to Valentine anymore. They hated him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his mere presence bothered them
Mm-hmm.
because they, the fantasy of, they were like falling all over this guy
Yeah.
in the first episode. And by the end, because he was revealed, the fantasy was, it's like, no, he is not who you think he is. He's not this cute, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow.
I thought it was interesting. I saw something that, that all the actors got paid the same, regardless of, how famous they were. So they all got paid $40,000 an episode.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 6 episodes. That's only 200.
There's 8 episodes.
Sorry, 8. So 32. So
320,000.
And this was a 7-month shoot.
Yeah.
It took 7 months. I mean, I'm sure they all weren't working every day for 7 months, but the whole production, I mean, it was really long, and they seemed to all really get very close, because my Instagram feed is nothing but pictures of these guys hanging out while they were filming, and they're all best friends, and so they were together a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's a long time to, as an actor, be working. And that's a lot of money. But, with actors, you got to remember, they got to pay a lot. Like, take taxes and their agents and manager fees and all the other stuff they have to pay for.
Money for 7
months. It really isn't that much money. And obviously, there isn't anyone who's like a massive, massive movie star, but certainly, any of these people could make a lot more money on a TV show or something.
Yeah. Well, they also said that originally they offered the Rick character to Woody Harrelson.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't want to do it for $40,000. And he was, I think he may have negotiated for a higher salary or something, but then he ended up not doing it because of his conflict with something else or whatever.
Oh, okay. I could see that. But I thought he's so good.
I don't even know what Woody Harrelson even looks like now. I haven't seen him in ages. So I don't know. I can only see, Rick is Rick. Walton Goggins is Rick. So I can't picture anybody else.
Well, but this has become kind of like, Mike White is like become sort of the Woody Allen in a way. Mm-hmm. Like, he's become like, everyone's like, oh my God, Mike White, Mike White and blah, 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 blah. It's like, everybody, just like with Woody Allen and all these like Jim Jarmusch and these, Scorsese, like, they're dying to work with. Mm-hmm. He's become that. So now people are going to do that.
Yeah. Well, now how long are we going to have to wait for White Lotus season 4? I don't know how long.
Another year or so, I would think.
At least a year.
Year plus.
It's been more than a year since the last one, for sure. That's what I hate. You watch that, you get so into this show, and then it's over fairly quickly. And then you're like, you have to wait another year for a new one. But I'll wait. Wait. I'll be here.
Yes. All right.
Show.
Anything else? Anything we missed on the White Lotus?
Oh, I'm sure we missed some stuff, but I think we've said enough. This has been overanalyzed.
Yes.
Overanalyzed to death.
Yes. So thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. If you enjoy us and want to hear more from us, go check out our Patreon. We do a weekly bonus episode. You get all the shows ad-free. We do a Ask Us Anything, true crime for our higher level tiers. If there's other ways to support us, you can leave us a 5-star rating. Those do help us. Please subscribe to the podcast, share it with a friend. Go check us out on social media at Psych Legal Pop on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you all next time. Bye.